I'm going to give you a tiny little taste in something called NLP. Has anybody heard of NLP, by the way? Has anybody? No. Okay. So you're a fresh audience. I love it. All right. So NLP, the first word is neuro. You might have heard of it when I say this. L stands for linguistic. Who wants to take a stab at the P? No, we haven't heard of it. Neuro-linguistic programming. That's NLP. So NLP was discovered. NLP's been with us as long as humans have been on the earth, but it's just nobody actually knew what it was. So they made a study of it in the 1970s. And it was developed originally because a group of psychoanalysts and psychologists recognised that people describe themselves and describe the world back to themselves in different ways. We've got different ways that we do that. And they recognised if they discovered those patterns and worked with people according to their own patterns, the process of healing or them getting to the point that they needed to happened a lot faster. It was then taken on by law enforcement, particularly interrogation specialists, because when I teach you this a little bit, you'll know when people are lying to you or not. How many would like to know exactly when your customer's not telling you the truth or not? Yeah. So that's why these guys love it. But what it is, it's just an understanding of how we work. So neuro refers to what?
The brain.
All right. So this is how our brains work. Linguistic. Language, all right? So we recognise that there's a way we talk that gives us an insight into people's brains. And programming is literally how these two things work together to show how an individual ticks. To know exactly how a person thinks, acts, know how they see the world, but more importantly, know how they see the world back to them. And they're different. They just operate, behave a little bit differently. Now, to this point, you weren't aware of this. So this is going to be quite fascinating. Well, it's fascinating for me. You guys might think it's different, but for me, this is the real. You learn this, you can literally understand how you need to sell to a particular individual. So we're interested in three particular representational systems. In NLP, we call it the VAK model, or V-A-K. Now, what these are representational systems. So V stands for, what's the word? Visual. A stands for, what's the word? And K, has anyone heard of that word? Kinesthetic. Kinesthetic. Okay, so who wants to have a crack at visual? So visual is our eyes. We take in knowledge mostly by our eyes. We learn by our eyes. We make decisions by what we see. And we're very observant of what goes on around us. Auditory refers to what? What we hear. So we're very intent on what the words that people say. We learn best by listening. Kinesthetic is what we feel. So have you ever had a customer say to you, that doesn't quite feel right for me, or I always go make decisions on my gut, what my gut tells me to do, and I've never gone wrong. That's a kinesthetic person. So what we recognise is that the different modalities that we operate within are obvious to people that are trained in this and know what to look for. Now, of interest to you, it might be what percentage we are. Now, different studies will tell you different things, but typically the studies say around about 32% of individuals are visual primarily. A much smaller percentage of people are auditory, which is interesting when you look at the school education system, particularly traditionally. This will be interesting for you, Max. The school education system, probably before Danny in that generation, and I know Danny in his generation and beyond that have tried to do a lot of work to make the school system differently, but certainly as we were younger, the school system was all about just the teacher doing all the talking and us doing all the listening. So if you were auditory, you killed school. And unfortunately, that's a very small percentage of the population is actually auditory. By far, the majority of the population is actually kinesthetic. They say, depending on the study that you look at, around 54% of people will be kinesthetic. So most people learn best by just having a crack. Just like, get me out in the playground to do it. That's when I do it. It's like riding a bike. You can't ride the bike by just reading the book or listening to the instructor. You have to have a go at it. Some things are like that. Selling's a lot like that. But this is how people are. So this is actually what we are, whether we know it or not. All right. Now, we will operate primarily in one of these modalities. Primarily, we can all operate in all three. So we can all learn something by seeing, hearing, doing, but we are primarily most comfortable in one of our what we call representational systems. Now, it's like being either left or right-handed. Now, Shona, you're right-handed. Your pen's in your right hand. So, Shona, could you write your name in your left hand? If you could write it in your left hand if you had to? Would it be as neat? No. Would it be as comfortable or easy? No. But you could do it. So this is what happens here. We can work in the different representational systems, but we are naturally one or the other, or one more than the others. Okay. Asking questions. Asking questions is the magic. Asking questions is the way that we get to wherever we want to get to in selling. So I've drawn this for you in your book. If you're wondering, these are sets of eyes, okay? And yes, girls, you are welcome to draw eyelashes on them if you want.
I literally was about to.
And Tim, sorry, Tim. Now, so I told you that visual, auditory, and kinesthetic all behave a little differently, yeah? Now, here's some magic. There should be laws against this part I'm about to tell you. Now.
And you've typed it?
Yeah. I have to have you see me as the customer, all right? So as you guys are looking at me, this is my right side. Does that make sense? So not as you're looking at the board, not as the left side of the board. So you're looking at my eyes, this is my right eye, this is my left eye. Does that make sense for everybody? Okay. Now, this work, I don't say only works. So when you're tuned into this, you'll see. You won't even have to be asking questions. But the best way to make this work is you've got to ask questions. So here's how our brain works. And you guys might have heard of this. We have a left brain, right brain. Has people heard of that? We're left brain or we're right brain? Our left brain is where we store all of our memories, all the things that have actually happened. So when we talk about the experiential model, all of the experiences live in what part of our brain? Left brain. All right. Now, I don't know the science of that, where they literally are there on the left side of our brain, but that's, as far as how our brain works, that's where our stored memories are. So if I want to look for memories, I'm going to look in what direction? Left. Is this cool? Now, if I look right, what am I doing? Bullshitting. No, I am creating, okay? So left side, I'm accessing a real memory. I'm accessing the filing cabinet, something that actually really happened. So left side, I'm recalling. Right side, I'm creating. Now, a visual person will always look up. So the visual person looks up, and it'll either be... Now, both eyes won't do that at the same time. If they're doing that, then you've got a different problem. But it'll either go to the left or it'll go to the right. Does that make sense so far? And it'll be in a little bit of an up direction. So two things you can determine with this. If they're going up like that, they're either visual or they're looking for a picture. So I'm kinesthetic, but if you ask me a question to describe what something looked like, I would go up left because I'm trying to tell you about the picture, okay? But when I'm naturally talking to you, I might talk to you a little bit differently. Now, an auditory person will do exactly the same thing in the same direction. The only difference is, instead of up, the auditory person will look more level. Now, if you want to remind yourself on that, it's think ears. So they look towards the ears. For some unknown reason, an auditory person will actually try and find pictures in their ears. So they don't know why they do it, they just do it. Now, if they're looking to the right side, they're creating. So they don't have a picture, they don't have that sound, so they're making something up. Now, they may not be lying to you, but absolutely what they're saying is created. It didn't happen. Now, you can have somebody that answers you and goes left and then goes right, left, right. You know every time they go right, that wasn't real. That didn't happen. That's created. How freaking cool is this? Now, the best part is this is real time. It's real time. So the moment they do it, right then, whatever they said, whatever they did, whatever they're thinking was created. So I look at somebody when I'm selling to them, and real time, instantly, I can go, Daryl, if that's not clear to you, we can run through that in a bit more detail. I dead set have customers look at me and go, yeah, like literally they look as if you're right at that moment reading their mind. Now, you are. You are seeing something that they are not aware of. They have no idea their eyes are going left or right, and they have no idea what they're telling you. Now, I can actually, I've done this for so long, taught this for so long, I can tell exactly somebody's buying pattern, their literal pattern that they go through when they buy something. Now, I ask them a question and get them to tell me about when they bought something that they love and what in the end helped you make the decision. How did you actually decide to buy it? So what did you do? Well, I saw it online, or I did some research online, and it looked really great to me. And then I went in and I talked to the salesperson. They made a lot of sense to me, but at the end of the day, it just felt like the right thing to do. Now, what's their buying pattern? They're visual, auditory, kinesthetic. If you sell to them in that pattern, you literally unlock the code. That is how you sell to them. Sell to them visual, sell to them auditory, sell to them kinesthetic, and they won't know why they're buying what they're buying. You unlock the combination lock. It's just magic. Now, a kinesthetic person, the kinesthetic person looks down and right. Now, they may not necessarily be creating when they're looking down right. So just be aware that the kinesthetic person's often going to look down and to the right because that's where they feel, okay? The kinesthetic person, if they're making something up, will either look upright or look cross-right depending on whether they're creating the picture or a sound for you, okay? So you have to take all of this stuff in context. Does that make sense? And it works best when you're asking questions. Now, it's not the sort of questions that they can answer with a one word. So how's the weather? Fine. How are you going today? Fine. That doesn't involve any IQ movement because that can just come out of top brain. The thinking brain can do that. Where this is coming from is from the downstairs brain, from the limbic system, the seat of our emotion. VAC gives you a direct access to their limbic system real time, and it can't lie. It's the freaking greatest hack in selling ever invented. I don't know why more people don't teach this. When I learnt this, sales were good when I learnt this. This is magic stuff for you guys. Now, there's another representational system called auditory digital. They will often look down left. If they're looking down left, this is looking for an internal dialogue, okay? So the auditory digital is a very logical thinker. If you've got somebody looking down left, it's a sub-modality of NLP that wasn't discovered until probably like sort of the last 5-6 years. So auditory digital now signifies you've got a very logical thinker and they're talking to themselves. There's a lot of internal dialogue. So once you see that behaviour, get into their head. Get into their head, ask them what's happening for you right now? Let me understand what thought process you're going through. They look at you as if you're a Jedi Knight when you do stuff like that.